Hi guys, thank you so much for joining. We've got people slowly trickling into this special Ask a Mentor Anything about Ready Vet Go. So I'm so glad that you guys are here. I'm going to just leave this open for another minute for people to pop in. And while people are trickling in, I would love if the people who are joining us could please just share into the chat. Let us know where you are joining us from and what your role is in the veterinary profession. If you are a student or a early career veterinarian, a practice owner, a credentialed technician, I would love for you all to just let me know where you are joining us from, because I do see a number of people trickling in. So if some brave person wants to start, you can drop into the chat. I'll just get the conversation going here. I'm Dani Rabwin, and I'm a veterinarian. 2004 is when I graduated, so I'm going on 20 years. So for the rest of you who are here, if you wouldn't mind dropping into the chat where you are coming from. So this webinar is a little bit different than how we usually do our Ask a Mentor Anything. Usually we have a Ready Vet Go mentor pop in to field questions about medical cases or new veterinarian life of our Ready Vet Go mentors. But I get a lot of questions about just what is Ready Vet Go specifically. And so I'm Dr. Dani Rabwin. I'm the founder of Ready Vet Go. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to just open this up for discussion. So it really is Ask Me Anything, which means I do not have a prepared talk for you today. We do offer monthly RACE approved webinars. This is not one of them. This is just Ask Me Anything, which means I'm here to field questions from you. I see that we have a practicing veterinarian joining us from Arizona, which is awesome. Welcome. For the rest of you who are joining us, I would love to know where you are coming from, because I do see quite a bit of you here in the audience. And so I am going to really just open this up to questions. So there are two ways that you can ask questions. Unfortunately, because this is webinar style, I can't really have you come off mute, I don't think. So I think we're going to have to do this either through the Q&A, which is open and available to you. So you can drop questions into the Q&A. I've also enabled the chat. And so you can drop questions into the chat as well. So I'm going to just pause and again say welcome to those of you who are here. And I'm going to just see if there are questions that trickle in. And if not, then I'll just freeform it and tell you guys about Ready Vet Go. But I'm going to give it a moment and let you guys think of any questions that you might have. And since you all came here for Ask Me Anything about Ready Vet Go, that leads me to believe that some of you have questions about what Ready Vet Go is. So I think while I'm waiting for questions to trickle in, I will just start by sharing with you a little bit about me and my story and how I came to come up with this idea, which is Ready Vet Go. So like I said, I'm Dr. Dani Rabwin. I'm a veterinarian. I graduated from UC Davis in 2004, and I really love veterinary medicine. I have always been a cheerleader for this profession, and even throughout all these 20 years, I've just enjoyed pretty much every day of practice. And I found myself as an informal mentor to many new and early career veterinarians, vet students, technician students who would come through the clinics where I was working, and I just loved mentoring. And in the summer of 2020, the practice where I was working, I'm still there part-time, I've been there for going on 12 years, we brought on a new grad. And for those of you who were working during that summer of 2020, we know how hard it was being curbside. And my mentee, who just started with us, was in the office with me. She occupied the desk next to me. And I got to know her really well because we were very closely confined physically for many, many months. And I knew all about her cases and what her cases were. And after some time of us working together, she began coming to me with questions that I knew were not about her own cases. And it turns out that she was asking questions on behalf of friends and classmates who were out in practice and not really receiving the same type of support that she was. And I said, this is silly. You don't need to be the go-between between your friends and myself with these medical questions. It was the pandemic summer. Everybody was used to being on Zoom. I said, why don't we just form a Zoom group? And so we did. We formed an impromptu Zoom group with myself facilitating a discussion between a bunch of new and early career vets. And it was amazing. It was super transformative. We would meet a couple times a month in the evening after work. People would get a glass of wine or tea, or somebody had a baby and they would bring their baby, and they would come with medical cases and they would want to talk about medicine. How do I manage this diabetic or this kidney disease? And what they started to realize, and what I started to realize after a very short period of time, is for the most part, these new veterinarians knew medicine. They had just graduated from vet school. In many ways, they knew, newer information than I did. And they really knew how to manage these cases. And if they didn't know, they knew maybe where to look something up or who to ask. They might have somebody in their clinic they could ask. But what they really struggled with was all of the challenges and nuances that go along with navigating all of the things that we learn in veterinary school and translating that into practice. So, in a vacuum, they could certainly manage diabetes or kidney disease. They knew all the tests to run and they knew all the treatments to administer. But now this patient was attached to a human that had values, beliefs, finances to consider, physical ability to administer medications and treatments. And so it was navigating all of these challenges. And those are the things that I think take more time to dive more deeply into. We don't have the time to do that in our day-to-day clinical practice. And these are the things that I love coaching new veterinarians on. Client communication skills, managing time, being a leader in the practice. And these were all of the things that these new veterinarians were realizing they needed help with. And so a light bulb went off for me and I realized, this is pretty powerful. A lot of mentorship that new veterinarians need, number one, can be done remotely. So what I did is I looked around to see if there were any sort of organizations or groups that were doing remote mentorship in this way. And there weren't. And so I spent the next year building out a course curriculum for Ready Vet Go. And then I launched a formal mentorship program in 2022. I had 8 mentees in that first cohort. It was just myself. I was the only mentor. And we had a 6-month program. There was an online curriculum that the mentees progressed through on their own time. And then we would meet monthly as a full cohort. And then we broke the cohort down into small packs. These are groups of 3 to 4 mentees that meet twice a month, really kind of recreating the impromptu Zoom meetings that I had with my mentees in the summer of 2020. And it was very transformative and powerful. And the first cohort, we got wonderful feedback and we have grown. And now we have had almost 150 mentees go through our program. We have 14 amazing mentors who all are really phenomenal leaders in our field. And now we have the Ready Vet Go community where we offer race-approved CE. We offer these drop-in Ask a Mentor Anything events. And so we're really taking off. We're here to really support the veterinary profession at large. We're here to spread the joy of veterinary medicine because this is a fun profession. And it's not without its challenges and some heartache sometimes, but for the most part, it's a really amazing community. And we are here to really share that message with the veterinary profession. So that is my story. That is how I came to found Ready Vet Go and how you all came to be here. So this isn't Ask Me Anything. So I'm going to pause since you've all heard my story now and see if there are any questions. Please feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A or into the chat. If you don't have questions, if you could drop something into the chat to let me know that you're here and you're able to hear me so I know that everything is working well. I know that somebody else from Arizona dropped in that they were here, but I would love just to make sure that you all are hearing what I'm saying, since it is such a strange experience being in my office and speaking to a room full of people whose faces I cannot see. So I would love to have a conversation, as this is Ask Me Anything. So please feel free to drop your questions into the chat. If you don't have any questions, which so far it sounds like you don't, I would love for you to let me know a little bit more about who is here. I do know that we have one practicing veterinarian. I assume some of the rest of you are veterinarians. If you are working with a new vet or you are a new vet, if you could let me know kind of like how long you've been in practice, who you're working with, then that might help guide me towards some content that I can share with you. So feel free to let me know, like maybe where in the world you're practicing, what type of clinic you have, and how I can best support you. What I'm going to do, since I don't see a lot of questions moving into the chat, is I just dropped into the chat some links. And this might be something that you guys are interested in if people are a little bit shy about putting your questions into this space. Then you can use the links that I just put here to learn a little bit more about Ready Vet Go. And I know that we're going to be having a number of people who will watch this on demand after the fact who are not able to attend. And so for those of you who are watching later, I'll make sure to get you the links. But in the chat, I just dropped the link into our enrollment for our October cohort. There's a code for a discount. Our October cohort will be for new and early career veterinarians. It's a 7-month program. It has the same structure that I just shared with you. We also have the Ready Vet Go community, which is a free community for all veterinary professionals. So if you are not a member of the community, please click the link to add yourself to the community. You will then be able to get information about our upcoming continuing education events and any of these other drop-in, ask a mentor, anything. And the CE list is also included in the chat there. So you can click that link to see what continuing education events we have coming. So I am going to hang out and just see if there are any other questions that pop into the chat or in the Q&A. I'm here for you. My time is yours. But if you don't have any questions, then we might close this early. And for people who have gone through my mentorship program, they know that I'm very good at the long pause to wait for questions. So I'm just going to pause and wait and see if anybody has any questions. Before I close this webinar out early, for those of you who are still in attendance, if you are able to just come on the chat and say that you are here, or give me like a little emoji, just so that I know that you guys are hearing this. I want to make sure that that is, there aren't any tech glitches. That would be awesome. And I do see that we just had one more person who just popped into the room. So I am going to just hang out here for a little bit and see if the new person who just popped in has any questions. I do see one question that's coming into the Q&A, which is, what is the best way for someone to approach a senior veterinarian about being their mentor? That is a really good question. And I love that this question was even asked, because even just having the awareness around approaching a senior veterinarian to be your mentor is key. So we teach in our mentorship program that there are certain mentee skills that are really essential. And the first one is identifying and inviting someone to be your mentor. And so if you are an early career veterinarian and you have someone in your clinic who is a senior, vet that you want to be your mentor, or maybe somebody who is also an early career vet who you want to be more of a peer mentor. I do think it's really good to have more of like a formal invitation, really genuinely asking them. I think asking someone to be your mentor, it shows respect, number one. It shows that you're taking your role as a mentee very seriously. And it also gives an opportunity for the mentor to respectfully decline, because being in a mentor role is really not for everyone. And so I think you can ask someone to be your mentor, either verbally, if they work in the clinic with you. A well thought out email is a really nice way to ask someone to be your mentor. Obviously, if you have a text or phone relationship with that person, I think that is a good way to ask them as well. And I say just practicing, if you're going to ask someone to be your mentor, I role play a lot. And so really practicing saying out loud, inviting someone to be your mentor. And then the other thing I recommend you consider is, we don't want to have just one mentor, because there's so much to learn. And there's so many different people in your world who could be your mentor potentially. And so thinking about what it is about that specific person that you admire or you want to learn from them, and letting them know that in advance. I want you to be my mentor to help with my communication skills, because I hear you on the phone with clients and I really love how you do that and I want to learn from you. And so that is, I think, something that you can include when you invite someone to be your mentor. The other thing that I recommend you do is to remind veterinarians what they are going to get out of the mentor-mentee relationship. Mentorship is a two-way relationship, and it's not just the mentee benefiting. The mentor really benefits as well. I love being a mentor for so many reasons, but a few of the reasons are that I get to learn some of the newer information. Like I said at the beginning, I graduated 20 years ago, so medicine has changed, and I really love learning new things from my mentees. I learned how to spay a rabbit from my most recent mentee. That was really fun. She had just come off of a shelter rotation and taught me how to spay a rabbit, and so that was really fun for me. And so making sure that when you approach a senior veterinarian to be your mentor, that you remind them of the things that they're going to get out of the relationship as well. So great question. Anybody else have any other questions? These questions can be about mentorship in general. They can be about the Ready Vet Go mentorship program. If you are a mentor in your clinic and you have a mentee and you have questions about that mentor-mentee relationship, feel free to pop that question here as well. Like I said, I'm here to talk about the Ready Vet Go program, but I also have just so much experience with mentorship in general, so I'm happy to take other questions. Somebody just dropped into the Q&A. Would you talk some about how generational differences play a major role in clinic culture, and maybe a few thoughts on how to navigate this issue? This is a really good question. We have we get this a lot. There are so many questions around generational differences. A little plug for generational differences, for tips that you can use to navigate this issue. In the chat, I dropped the link for the free Ready Vet Go community. If you join the community, you can have access to all of our on-demand webinars. And one of them was an early career veterinarian who came and spoke about navigating generational differences. And so it's a really, really good webinar that we dive a lot more deeply into generational differences. So I think just first acknowledging that there are generational differences in the clinics. And, I just heard something recently that said in some clinics, there are 3 to 4 different generations working under the same clinic roof. And so this can cause a lot of conflict. One thing that I hear as a mentor, as I'm out talking to veterinarians and I'm saying, hey, are you thinking of bringing on a new veterinarian to fill that associate position that you've had open for 4 years? And they say, oh no, I would never bring on a new grad. They're just babies. They want their hands held. So I don't know if you guys hear that. I hear it a lot. Maybe you think that. I completely disagree. I think that one of the generational challenges that I see, especially with the new veterinarians who are graduating, is that there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear about messing up. There's a lot of fear about board complaints. There's a lot of fear about getting trashed on social media or Yelp reviews. There's fear about doing things in the clinic that maybe they should have referred to a specialty clinic. I hear that a lot. And so really acknowledging that some of these generational differences come from a place of fear, I think is really important. And I really recommend people being upfront about that and kind of naming it, and just, sort of asking your mentor or mentee if they do have any fears, and what are some of the concerns that they have about being in the clinic. Another generational difference that I notice is around communication. So a lot of, I will say, maybe older generation veterinarians think that the younger generation veterinarians want to be communicated with by technology, and that's not the case at all. I think that newer veterinarians really want to be communicated with upfront and in person. And so one of the ways to navigate that is, if you are setting up a mentor-mentee relationship in your clinic, is having a mentorship agreement. And in that agreement, you might talk about how you want to be communicated with, and how often and when and where, because a lot of those things are generational as well. So, I find that the younger generations sometimes have a harder time just reaching out and asking for help. And so setting aside set time to talk about challenges that you're having in the clinic, I think, is really important. And I also would recommend considering setting up time outside of the clinic. It's really hard. I don't know about you guys, but for me, when I'm working with one of my mentees and I'm in the clinic and a CSR has a question, they're just going to come in and interrupt, which is okay. But it makes I lose my train of thought pretty easily in a situation like that. So with my mentee, I really like to get out of the clinic. We might go to dinner. And so I think having a mentorship agreement is a really great way to navigate some of the challenges of the generational differences. If there are specific generational differences that this attendee has, feel free to drop that into the Q&A, and I'm happy to elaborate further. Another question that I'm seeing coming in, and I'll just say thank you guys so much for putting these questions into the chat. It is really nice for me to know that you're out there and have questions for me. So I really appreciate you doing that. The next question that came in is, how do you see the future of veterinary medicine? Do you feel positive about it? I love this question. I do feel positive about our profession. For those of you who were here at the beginning of this webinar, I was letting you know that I've been doing this for 20 years and I really love being a veterinarian. I consider it an honor to help families and pets. I got into this profession a little bit of a more, kind of roundabout way than some of my colleagues and peers. I find that many of us go into veterinary medicine because we love animals, which is wonderful. But I went into veterinary medicine because I love people and I love connecting with people, and I love the role that our family veterinarian had in my life, really. And I wanted to be that for other families. And so I really do love the people part of this profession. And I think no matter what, the veterinary profession is always going to attract really wonderful people. And for that reason, among many others, I do feel very positive about it. I also feel positive about our profession because the data that's coming out of the AVMA is suggesting that we are becoming a little bit more diverse and inclusive. This has always been something that has been a challenge in our profession. The recent information from the AVMA is that about 25% of current veterinary students come from minority or underrepresented backgrounds, which is good. It's certainly a lot better than it was. We have a long way to go, but 25% is the best number that we have had so far. And I think that we are becoming a more diverse and inclusive profession is one of the positive things that I see about the future of veterinary medicine. We can have a whole conversation about consolidation and the corporatization of veterinary medicine. I have, some opinions, but, certainly open. None of my opinions are hard and fast. I don't feel particularly strongly either way. I have worked in both independent and corporate practice, independent for 18 years and corporate for the past 2, because the practice where I have been for many years was acquired by a corporate practice. So I feel as though I can see many sides. And so I think when people talk about the future of veterinary medicine, they talk about ownership. One thing that I am noticing, which I think is really positive, is that we have more and more people who are going into ownership. And so I think that's a really great sign for our profession, because I think having more independent practices is only going to be good for our profession. So thank you for that question. I do feel really, really positive. And it's not to say that I'm sugarcoating things or glossing over the challenges. We do have our challenges, and I don't want to, be Pollyanna-ish about it in any way. But so I will say that acknowledging the burnout, the turnover, people leaving our profession, this is a problem. There are definitely challenges, but I think for all of the reasons that I just mentioned, I still do feel really positive about this profession. All right, so there's another story coming in, or another question. Would you share a story about how RVG has helped a specific mentee deal with a specific issue? Well, this is a great question. I have so many that are coming to mind. So we have been doing this since 2022. So my very first cohort that I launched in 2022 had 8 mentees. I was the only mentor, and we have since grown, and we've had many cohorts of veterinarians go through the program, and lots of them have been with some of our amazing Ready Vet Go mentors. So I hear stories from them. I'll share with you one of my own personal stories. I had a mentee who was really struggling. This was last year, and she was really, really struggling. And I'll backtrack a little bit. So we meet once a month as a full cohort, and we have these really amazing workshops. They're 75 minutes. We bring on a guest speaker, we go into breakout rooms, and we talk about that month's topic. And at the end of every meeting, we end with our wins. And I just think it's really important. I think you can tell from hearing from me, like I tend to be pretty positive and upbeat, and I do feel positive about our profession. And I think it's really important that after a challenging meeting, when we're all diving deep into a particular subject area and it can be a little bit tense, that we end with our wins. And I like to tell veterinarians that, we're really good at remembering our mistakes and not as good as our wins, even though our wins far outnumber our mistakes. So we always end with our wins. And the wins at the beginning of a cohort, when we have all brand new grads, might be something like, I figured out the computer system, or last week we got one that said my diploma came in the mail. And these are just, I love them so much. These wins are amazing. But then as we go and go every month, the wins get bigger and bigger. And so somebody might say, I just did a splenectomy, or I just, unblocked a male cat, or something big. And they're great. And I always love when we hear these. And I had a mentee who stayed after one of our meetings, and she met with me, and she said that the wins were starting to make her really overwhelmed, because she had not done a splenectomy, and she had not had an opportunity to unblock a cat. And she was really feeling like she wasn't progressing in her profession the way she wanted to. And so I did an exercise with her. It's something we do halfway through the Ready Vet Go mentorship program. We weren't quite there yet, so I had her do it a little bit early. And it's an exercise where we basically identify our why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Because it's so easy to lose sight of our why when we are in the day-to-day grind of veterinary practice, because it's busy, it can be overwhelming. And so I had her just take a step back, reevaluate her why. And I asked her to text me what her why was. And she was texting me really for like going on weeks. And she said, I'm still just not sure. I'm so stuck on this. And then one day I got a text message, and it was a picture of her, and she was next to a husky who was recovering in surgery. And the next picture was of her holding up this dog's uterus, this pyometra uterus in surgery. And I could see her under her surgical mask just beaming. And the caption on this text message said, I found my why. And the why was that this owner of this husky was this young guy, and he loved his dog. And the dog was sick, obviously, and there were some financial challenges, and she was able to work with her practice and get some funding. And the practice was really open to having her help him financially so that she could do this big surgery that she'd never done before. And her why was that she got to help this young man. And it was about doing the surgery, and she felt great about doing the pyometra, and she felt good about all of that, but she really was able to connect with this person and get in touch with her why. So for me, that was a really powerful story about a specific issue that she was really struggling. She had lost sight after really it had been less than a year that she was a veterinarian, and to get that back, to be able to help one person get back their why so that they can move forward with a real focus in their career is super helpful. I will also tell you something very deep that wouldn't necessarily advertise, but since you asked about a specific issue, our program is about so much more than supporting veterinarians with clinical medicine. That is important. However, for those of you who are vets who have been in practice, for any period of time, we know that it's the other things in our lives that are really going to give us these long and successful or maybe even joyful careers. We don't just check our personal lives at the door when we go into practice. And so while our program has 7 formal modules, and we're talking about connecting with clients and being a leader in the practice, managing your time, all of those things are super important. And in addition, the PAC groups, these small groups of 3, 4, sometimes 5 mentees with an experienced Ready Vet Go mentor, those groups are extremely transformative. And they are very safe spaces for people to talk about the important things in their lives that are affecting their performance at work. And these are not things that people generally feel comfortable talking about during the day-to-day hustle and bustle of the clinic. This is a safe space separate from the clinic for people to talk. And just a couple of days ago, I got a text message from one of our mentors, and she said, "I'm so sorry. We didn't have a typical meeting." There were a couple things that she had wanted to address, or that I had wanted her to address with her group. And she said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't have a chance to get to that. One of my mentees was just a victim of sexual assault. And we spent the entire hour talking about that." And she said, "We're going to catch back up with all of our regular content the next time we meet, but I felt like this was really important." And for me, it's such a powerful reminder of what we are doing by building community within our profession. And so I think we're really able to help veterinarians both professionally, like my story around my mentee with her why, and with this other mentee that I'm sharing with you this personal story. So I hope that answers your question. I did just get a thank you dropped into the chat. You are so welcome. I'm so glad that it's been helpful and informative. I am happy to keep sharing and answering questions. I don't see anything else coming into the Q&A. I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm going to drink some water, and I'm going to pause and just see if there's any final questions that are coming into the Q&A. You can drop them into the Q&A or into the webinar chat. Well, this has been great. Thank you guys so much. I'm not sure exactly who you all are out there, but I hope this has resonated with some of you. If you are an early career veterinarian or a vet student who's interested in mentorship, please reach out to me. I'm going to drop my email right here into the chat. It's Dani@readyvetgo.co. I'm also going to drop it into the Q&A because I'm not sure what you guys are able to see. So there's my email. Feel free to email me. I also dropped into the chat before, but I will drop it in again just for you guys in case any of you who are here came late. These are the links to everything Ready Vet Go. So we have a lot of information about the Ready Vet Go mentorship program. We have a free preview course. We have monthly race approved CEs, live webinars, and these drop-in Ask a Mentor anything questions or events. And we are also enrolling for our October cohort. So please use the link that you see at the top, and I put in a 10% discount code for tonight. For those of you who are here, we would love to offer you a discount in our upcoming mentorship cohort. So I don't see any other questions coming into the Q&A. If you do think of something that you have a question for me about, feel free to email me. This will go on in our Ready Vet Go community for people to watch on demand later. And I'm so grateful to you guys who came and participated. And I hope wherever you are that you have a wonderful evening. And I thank you guys so much for coming. And I hope to see you at one of our future Ready Vet Go cohorts or events. Have a great night.